Ms. Legalista, aka Attorney Sheila here, checking my checking my phone, checking my phone, and yes, I have some things I need to follow up on. But I am here to talk about. Did you see the title of the video? What was the title of the video? I can't even remember now, and it's not at the top. Okay, here it is. The deadliest Airbnbs to stay in. There are two things I want to talk about here. I'm going to go to this attorney's blog where he talks about the death of a child that happened after this child was exposed to something in an Airbnb. And then I also want to talk about this NBC article press release, I don't know, where they're talking about carbon monoxide poisonings in Airbnbs. So, if you're going to stay in an Airbnb, you might think you're walking into a clean situation, a clean environment, but are you really sure? What kinds of questions should be asked of this other party? Let me go ahead and jump over here to this attorney's website first, because like I said, two different things here. One was a young child who got killed, and then the other have to do with these deaths that have occurred at Airbnbs where people were exposed to carbon monoxide. Now, this first one you see here is not carbon monoxide. And it says here, you've got this attorney who files a lawsuit against Airbnb for the death of a 1-year-old. Look what this 1-year-old was exposed to. A 1-year-old at a high-end, this is a high-end Palm Beach house. Let's see what they're talking about here. And let me go ahead and give a shout out to Leesfield Scalero, Florida injury lawyer blog there. So you've got the information there, and I'll put that in the comments at some point in time, because I do like to give people credit for the information that they're providing. It said here, this is back in March 3rd, 2023. Their 19-month-old daughter died while staying at an Airbnb in Wellington, Palm Beach County, Florida in August of 2021. The autopsy determined that the child had died of acute, look at this toxicity, which established that the toddler came into contact with a lethal dose left behind at the Airbnb. And look at this. So they had this child there, but they also had five other children going on a family vacation in Florida. It says they booked a home on Airbnb located in Wellington, Florida. Upon arrival, they were greeted by co-defendant Tempe, who gave them access to the home. After a quiet evening in the house, the little girl, Honora, spent the following morning playing throughout the house with her siblings. Look, they have a picture there. At around noon, Honora and her older sister laid down on the bed they were sharing to take a nap. When mom checked on Honora later that day, she found her unresponsive, not breathing, with foam on her lips. This is horrible. I don't know any other way to describe this. Imagine that you have booked this Airbnb, you're going on this family vacation, you've got your kids there, and never would it cross your mind that you would have to worry about this. It says at the time it was unknown to the parents and to police that Honora had come into contact with, and you can see what they have at the house there. The medical examiner detected a lethal level in her blood and determined that her cause of death, you see it right there, acute toxicity. Toxicology readings indicated an extremely rapid death after ingestion, ruling out the possibility that Honora came into contact with it anywhere else but inside the Airbnb rental. And okay, so here we have this next topic here that talks about this widespread drug use in Airbnb rentals. The lawsuit alleges that Airbnb has known for years that drug use is prevalent in its properties, including those same properties that are rented out to families with children and infants. For years, Airbnb's platform has been used by guests to do drugs in its rentals, as well as organize unchecked and uncontrolled parties where drug use occurs through its property sharing services. So let me stop right here for a second, because recently, earlier this year, I did hear about one town that was sort of some properties there, some Airbnb owners were locking down their properties, and they were not going to make those properties available for use during the Halloween time period or during some other time periods where they felt like they were going to be used for these parties and that things could go on there. And they were just taking them off the market on Airbnb for them to be rented at all. So people know, some of these landlords know that things are going on, and they're starting to actually take some action. The question though is, what is Airbnb doing? And is Airbnb letting people know about these things that are going on? Because I would not have thought about this. Maybe some of you already knew about this. I did not. It says, like it says, that they've known for years. It says through its websites, community discussion boards, where hundreds, look at this, where hundreds of posts sound the alarm on drugs being used, sold, manufactured, and left behind in their properties. The complaint alleges that Airbnb was well aware that the nationwide crisis had all but spilled over inside its rentals. It further alleges that Airbnb knows that it's being used and found in rentals, and that it creates a fatal risk to unaware guests, especially infants. All of a sudden, I think I'm back ready to be in a hotel and not in somebody's Airbnb when I don't know who has been there before me. I don't know if it's been properly cleaned. How would you know? And the same thing sort of applies to a hotel. It could be that, that the person who's supposed to be cleaning it up is not doing a really good job. There's never any true assurance that you're walking into a place and it's going to be absolutely clean, and there's going to be nothing there that could harm you. But in this case, what they're saying is Airbnb has been put on notice that they know this is going on specifically in some of their properties. It says it alleged that, to add insult to injury, Airbnb gives unsuspecting guests a false and misleading sense of safety and security when it advertises and promotes rentals that follow Airbnb's, quote, enhanced cleaning process. Like, what is that? Which is woefully insufficient to decontaminate a rental from fatal. And you see what it is there. And the reason I don't say these words is because sometimes, YouTube will just like shut your video down here. Not only does this enhanced cleaning process fail to remove all potentially fatal drugs from an entire property, but Airbnb does not even check whether hosts clean their properties in the first place. Well, I mean, Airbnb sees itself as this sort of connector. Like, I'm the middleman. This person is looking for a property. This person has a property. Come to my platform and you can connect. Therefore, I'm not really responsible for the person. I'm not really responsible for the property. It is on them. The liability is on them. So sue them. And places like Airbnb are saying it's not me. It's the same sort of theory that you see social media platforms take. I'm not responsible for what the person posts on the platform. I just am connecting them to a vehicle where they can share videos and contents and posts and get together with a community. I just have the platform. And so it's almost like hands off. It's not my fault, it's theirs. But in this case, they're saying, Airbnb has been telling people we have these enhanced cleaning processes. They're putting this out there on their website. And people are thinking, okay, I'm going to walk in. It's going to be clean. It's going to be safe. It's going to be secure. I don't really have anything to worry about. So now is the time to sort of, ask yourself if this is what you want. And I totally clicked on the wrong thing there. All right, let me get back over to this. So it says, despite Airbnb's alleged knowledge and the existence of its purported global team of safety and security experts with a full range of safety practices, the lawsuit criticizes Airbnb for voluntarily turning a blind eye to its systemic problem, failing to even warn guests and parents of the known risks of fatal drugs like this that they may encounter in their rentals. Lastly, it says the complaint alleges that Airbnb fails to warn guests about rentals on its platform that have hosted parties in the past, or about rentals where police have been called following criminal activities, or for being used as a proverbial, and you see what that is. You see what that is. Let me see if I have the actual complaint that we can take a look at. Let's see. Excuse me. All right, we've got this complaint here. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger, because that's a little on the small side. Even with my glasses on, it might be hard for you to see it. Okay. That's a little bit better. Okay, so this was filed almost a year ago, demanding a jury trial, Palm Beach County, Florida. And so you'll see Airbnb is being sued along with these other people. And then you've got this person here who is the personal representative of this estate of the little girl. And it's probably, looks like maybe it's her mom. It says when Liddy Lavinier, and I'm not sure if that's correct, but I'm trying to get there, rented an upscale Airbnb rental in Wellington, Florida for her family. She was promised a safe home where the strictest cleaning protocols were followed and parties were never allowed. Unbeknownst to her, the home where she and her husband brought their young children and baby had a history of being used as a party house and had just days earlier hosted at least a dozen adults who used, and you can see, cocaine and other drugs throughout the rental. Just hours after check-in, Liddy's 19-month-old daughter, Honora, died after coming into contact with some residue that was left at the rental before their arrival. So this is a wrongful death action here. Let's scroll down. So the mom is pursuing this on behalf of her deceased daughter. You have, let's see, this person who, you've got some defendants here. This Ronald M. Cortamilia, who owned, maintained, operated, controlled, rented out the premises. Tempe was a resident over the age of 18. I'm not sure who that is. This person also managed and operated it. And you have another defendant too. And then they go into the background of Airbnb. And I think we all know what Airbnb is. It says for each booking, Airbnb collects a 3% commission from its hosts and up to a 14% service fee from its guests through its online platform. And that's what I was talking about before. They have this platform. It says Airbnb's customers include families and guests of all ages. And at the time of booking, Airbnb requires each guest to be accounted for as an adult, child, or infant. And they talk a little bit about the business model. But here are the things where they're pointing out where Airbnb says our properties are safe. And it says they've got this article here, keeping our Airbnb family safe is one of our top priorities. So you see the connection there to that article. Working to keep our global community safe, both online and offline, is a top priority for Airbnb. And it says, to help prevent issues, we use our technology and machine learning to assess the risk of every reservation before it's confirmed. We run home safety workshops with hosts and local fire departments to equip our community with the latest advice from leading experts. And you see the number of articles that they have there. So what they're saying is, okay, this last sentence here, despite Airbnb's pledge to make safety a top priority and maximize transparency so that travelers know exactly what they're getting, the company is virtually silent when it comes to alerting guests to the substantial known drug use occurring in its rentals. You let me know. Were you aware of this? Have you rented an Airbnb? Have you walked in there and possibly seen some issues with the property? Has this been a concern that you've ever even thought about? I don't think that this would have ever crossed my mind to think about it. You know, I think coming off of the pandemic, a lot of us were maybe like, well, we want to make sure the place is clean because we're worried about COVID and some other things, you know, and now it's the end of the year, we may be worried about flu. But how many people are sitting around worried about a toxic level of a drug, particularly that one that killed this little girl? How many of us walk into those Airbnb properties thinking that we could be walking into a situation where some residue has been left behind and now your life or your kids' lives are now at stake? I mean, they weren't even in that property that long before her daughter was exposed and died. All right, let's go back to this article complaint to see what else it says. So it says here, Airbnb has known for years that drug use is prevalent in its properties, including those same properties that are rented out to families with children and infants. Airbnb possessed actual or constructive knowledge that it facilitated drug use in its rentals, as well as unchecked and uncontrolled parties where drug use occurs through its property sharing services. In an August 2020 article announcing a party ban with no meaningful enforcement mechanism, Airbnb acknowledged that some have chosen to take bar and club behaviors to homes, sometimes through our rent it through our platform. So they know. So by putting this article and this information out there, Airbnb is saying, okay, so we know, and we're going to do a party ban, but how are you enforcing it? And that's what they're saying in this complaint. So you said it, but you had no teeth to back it up with. Absolutely nothing. At least that's what they're alleging here in this article. Let's see what else. Airbnb's knowledge is also demonstrated through its website's community discussion boards, where hundreds of posts sounded the alarm on drugs being used, sold, manufactured, and left behind, such as a few of the following listed by title. And so, look, here are some of the titles. Like, look at these. Very clear. Not upheld by Airbnb. Another party in Calgary. Damage after party in London. How do I deal with or rate guests who left? Look at this. Airbnb lacks host support. How to clean. Suppose you're the owner of the property that even before this next family comes in, you're like, okay, they left some stuff here. What do I do? How do I clean this up? Yeah. I would be very concerned with ever having anybody in my property that I didn't know after this. So people who are getting in this as, a way of saying we're going to buy a house and we're going to rent it out, we're going to do this. This would be a very big concern. If you see Airbnb as a way to make money, I'd be very concerned after seeing this lawsuit and hearing about some of this. Look at the titles here that they're saying. Look at number L. I mean, letter L, N, R. I just, U all the way down here. Let's keep going and see what else they've got here. At all times, Airbnb possessed actual constructive knowledge that drugs, paraphernalia, and residue are left behind in rentals, that there is a substantial risk of them being left behind, and that when they are left behind, they pose a fatal risk to future guests, especially children and infants. Numerous posts on Airbnb's community discussion boards confirm Airbnb's actual or constructive knowledge, a few of which are below. So this is on Airbnb's board. Okay, this is where this is being shared on their community discussion board, not out someplace else. So Airbnb only has to open its own board to look at it and see that this is a problem. It says, going back to, okay, it is now 2023. This incident with the little girl dying was December of 2022, about a year ago. Look at how far back this post is. September 2016. September 2016 on Airbnb's own community discussion board. So how do you defend this? I have to take a look at their answer. I'm sure their answer is just going to be to deny, deny, deny. I definitely want to take a look at it and see what it says. This person wrote, look, left behind on her property. Could have been a serious situation. Had someone found, look at this, and poke themselves. This person, I can't imagine. This person is probably saying to herself, Susan 46, I'm never doing this again. It becomes not worth it. February 2018, this person found them on the table and was concerned about future guests. Of course, who do I really want people to come back? 2018 posted that recent guests had used, look at this, on her property and possibly even manufactured it in a bedroom. And look at what she said she found. Future guests, I'm whittling, finding needles or something hitting in the place that I didn't look. Two other users warned of the dangers, noting that even a tiny amount of accidental exposure could cause death. Well, here is the other thing. If you're the owner of this property and now you've found things on your property, you're almost in the same situation that Airbnb is in, because now you have knowledge that your property has been used in that manner. And so it's now incumbent upon you to make sure that after every guest leaves, you make sure that place is clean for the next guest that you might have coming. Because if something happens to that person, then they're suing you. It's your property. So this is just a mess for everybody who's involved. And then you have 2020. This person posted that a guest and her many unauthorized guests, did this in her suite. She said, continue that her rental required professional and possibly hazmat cleaning for the protection of future guests. This person says, I don't mean to be an alarmist, but you should consider hiring someone who has experience with this kind of cleanup, especially since this has been introduced into the community. Look at that. 2017 posted a guest left. Look at what this guest left. And an empty, now somebody's missing. Somebody's just like, I can't believe I left that there. Okay. They're missing that. But for the people who are having to deal with this is awful. This person says, Udall posted the guest had, yep. She found evidence of this and that. Someone in Virginia posted that she found what appeared to be a baggie. All right. And somebody left behind a spoon. You know, we've got a crisis here. We've got a crisis. And you can see what they're talking about here. Only 2 milligrams is considered potentially lethal dose. And then you've got all of these examples that they've got listed here of these children. But you can see all of these listed here that they've added to this complaint. It says it can happen very quickly with a very small amount. Children are constantly putting their hands in their mouth. It's so lethal that even a small amount of residue left on a table or on someone's hands can kill a small child quickly if first responders do not recognize the signs. When a child is lethargic, it can come across that it's something else. People need to be on the lookout now. Depresses the respiratory system and heart rate. It takes minutes for an adult to start feeling the effects. For a little infant, it only takes a small amount. I'm just not sure I can even read much more than this. Okay? I can't. At all times, it says, let's look at the property. The property is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath lake house in an affluent residential neighborhood in Wellington, Florida. It says, it talks about defendant Tippy was also responsible for communicating and coordinating with guests prior to and during their stays and was responsible for cleaning and maintaining the subject premises. You've got all of that. Information about the multiple photographs showing the home in an apparent immaculate condition and an invitation from Airbnb to relax with the whole family at this peaceful place to stay. I don't think I will ever. I have been in an Airbnb before, but I've never rented one. And after this, I don't think I ever will. I'm just going to be honest. I just don't think I ever will. It says the representations made by Airbnb created, to say the least, a false sense of security. In reality, the subject premises had a long history of being used as a party house and had just days earlier hosted a group of approximately a dozen adults who used, and you can see what's listed there. According to accounts of the neighbors, okay, so now we have the neighbors in here because, you know, if you're a neighbor like me, you are a looky-loo. According to the accounts of the neighbors, in late June or early July, the home was being used for a large party comprised of young males and females that appeared to be in their 20s. The subject premises, July 19th, was rented to a local woman for 7 adults at approximately 1:51 a.m. that day. So you know the neighbors were looky-loos at that point. They were probably the ones who said something about this. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to the subject premises in response to a large, loud party with far more than 7 people. Yeah. Most notably, days before the Leviner's check-in date, defendant Aaron Kornhauser was visiting Palm Beach County for a concert. He rented the subject premises from July 30th through August 1st, 2021 for 6 adults, but was actually staying there with approximately 11 other adults. Nonetheless, defendant Tippy allowed them to check in. During his stay, defendant Kornhauser brought and or knowingly permitted others to bring this on the premises. Upon information and belief, the substances brought to and used on the property included. And so here's what's going on. So they're suing the owners of the property and the last person who rented the property because this last person had this party and they think that it was then that all of this was brought onto the premises. It says, following defendant Kornhauser's stay at the property, defendant Tippy thanked him online. You and your family was perfect tenants. Okay. House was same way that I give it to you. All right. Let's scroll down. It says they knew or should have known about these incidents and risks. None of them provided any warning to potential guests. This is just sad. This is so sad. They talked about the little girl that she spent the morning playing and relaxing with her siblings. I don't even know if I can really read this. Later that day, she and her older sister laid down. You have to be those parents that are just like, something could have potentially happened to all of those children, could have happened to all of them. It just, while crying and screaming for help, Liddy performed chest compressions on Enora to no avail. Paramedics arrived as quickly as they could, but were unable to revive her. She was rushed to the hospital. And that's as much as that as I can read. I feel for these parents. I really do. So you have the wrongful death action against Airbnb. They had a duty to make sure that it was properly cleaned and safe. And you see here, failing to properly inspect, failing to adequately clean, failing to change and clean the bed sheets, failing to perform an adequate background check, failing to warn, failing to adequately assess the safety, just failure after failure after failure here. And then you have it against one of the owners, wrongful death against that owner. Again, failure after failure after failure, wrongful death against Tippy, the other person who, and it says here, managed, controlled, maintained, operated, and rented. So, and I'm not sure if the other person owned it. So let's go back and check and see what it actually says. I thought they said he owned it. Yeah. So Ronald Cordemelia, it says owned, maintained, operated, etc., managed. And then for Tippy, it does not say owned for Tippy. But then you have listed there too, all of the same failures there. And then wrongful death against this person who had rented out the premises the day before. And you're going to see something different here. You're going to see this person being accused of leaving this behind. And imagine now you're this person who left this behind. And understand that now, as a result, this young child is gone. I just, that's really about as much of that as I can read. I literally cannot read any more of that because that is just awful. So if you're thinking about staying in an Airbnb, this is a really tough situation to be in because you're thinking these places are clean when you get ready to go into them. You have no idea. You have no knowledge whether or not somebody has just held a party there, how many people may have been there, and what they may have used and left on those premises. You don't really know whether or not the sheets have been washed and cleaned. You go in and you're like, oh, well, they smell fresh, they look clean, but do you really know? You don't know the extent to which they came in and wiped everything down. Like I said before, we were a little bit more on our toes when it was COVID because we were spraying everything. We didn't go anywhere anyway, but we were more willing to spray everything to make sure that we were safe. We don't do that as much anymore. People have taken their masks off, they're taking their gloves off. We've let our guard down. And we certainly are not thinking that we're walking into a situation and by virtue of just being on the premises, that we are, walking into a space where we might not walk back out of. And especially if you're taking children into that space with you, it's more likely going to impact them more easily than it is going to impact an adult. And so, where this case is going, I don't know. But this was just a horrible, horrible circumstance. I cannot imagine what those parents went through when they went in to wake up their little girl and to see that she was not going to ever wake up again. So we talked about that being left over from the party situation. And that's certainly one aspect of it. But NBC has now been talking about the carbon monoxide poisonings that have gone on. So we've got the drug-fueled parties where they're leaving residue and paraphernalia behind where somebody might find and get hurt. And now you've also got the carbon monoxide poisonings. And you've also got some lawsuits going on there too. And let me see if I can bring up this NBC article here so that we can also take a look at that. I can't even find it. I have so many tabs open. Are you like me? And they're just like more tabs than you can ever imagine. NBC Bay Area. Let's see if we can share this. And then they've got 1,000 things popping up and going on. All right, let's see. NBC here. NBC Bay Area is reporting this. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. Airbnb's silent killer. 19 carbon monoxide deaths in 10 years. It doesn't sound like a lot, okay? Those are just the deaths. It's not telling you the people who may have been injured by it but didn't die. And it's not telling you about the deaths that occurred that they didn't know it was carbon monoxide. But in any case, for somebody who loses someone to this, you're like 19 sounds like not a lot until it's your family member, right? Until it's somebody you care about, especially since it may be preventable. How about that? How about that? Again, walking into Airbnbs that you might not walk back out of. So it says here, family members and representatives of people who died called for the company to mandate that carbon monoxide detectors be installed in every rental. And as I said before, this is coming out of NBC, uh, updated just yesterday. Just yesterday. This is how important this is. Look. So it says here, I want to scroll down to this part here. Well, let's go back up to this part. It says the company would require, back in 2014, the company made a commitment. The company would require hosts to confirm that carbon monoxide detectors were installed in every listing by the end of the year. The problem is it didn't happen. They did not do that. That is what is being said here. You put this out here. You said you were going to keep us safe in these Airbnbs if we rented them, but that's not necessarily the case. It says, this is by the end of 2014, will require all Airbnb hosts to confirm that they have these devices installed in their listing. Nearly a decade later, the company has not made any such mandate, and more lives have been lost along the way. And so you see here, this is how they came up with the number. It says the company is currently facing at least 3 lawsuits pertaining to carbon monoxide deaths or poisonings. So start to add that up. So you've got the carbon monoxide, you've got the drugs and the parties. At what point in time is Airbnb going to do something different? So if, like I said before, if it's something that you're thinking about renting again, I'd be concerned if I'm the person thinking I'm going to rent an Airbnb. All of a sudden, it's not. I'm doing hotels. I'm just doing hotels from now on out because you just don't know. I think over time, as people have gotten more used to renting out Airbnbs and doing things there and sort of treating them like home and whatever, you just don't know what you're walking into. And if you're one of these people who have purchased a property for the sole purpose of renting it out as an Airbnb property, then now, you have to ask yourself, what kind of insurance do I have to have in place in case there is a wrongful death? What kind of insurance do I have to have? I now have to have insurance that could cover that. Okay. And what kind of cleaning am I putting in place? Do I have to put in place? And on my website where I'm advertising my place, what am I stating up there about the condition of the property? You guys, there is so much at stake here. There's so much at stake here. All right, so if this brings you up to speed in regards to these deaths related to these Airbnb rentals, then go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. If you are now more knowledgeable, because that's what the intent is, to help us all become more knowledgeable, give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. Peace.